Welcome to Building Your Empire. We interview successful business owners, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and people who are making a difference in this crazy place we call life. We sit them down, ask the tough questions, and find out what it takes to be successful and share that information with you. My name is Jeff Rambin, and today we have in studio Thomas Brinsko with BIC Alliance. Thomas, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So, what is BIC Alliance?
Well, we're a business growth firm providing services to primarily the service companies and manufacturers in the heavy process industries. That's a lot of fancy words to say. Most people know me as I publish an industrial trade journal that's fairly ubiquitous in the petrochemical and
that's
refining space.
That's
BIC Magazine. There's my plug. But we also run a couple other operating subsidiaries underneath the BIC Alliance umbrella. I've got BIC Magazine, of course, but we run an executive search firm, BIC Recruiting, and then I'm partners in a boutique investment bank, IVS Investment Banking, and we help people find investors or exit strategies when they need to do so within this little niche of industry.
When they need some cash.
When they need some cash, I usually don't pull it out of my wallet, but I know people with really thick wallets that we can get to.
Awesome. Okay, now, as a president, you probably get to come in the office late, stay, go home early. You don't have any stress. That's kind of what people think of presidents as laid back. And is that sort of the case in your case?
We have a saying at my office. We have flex time, and you only have to work half a day. But the good news is you get to pick whichever 12 hours you want.
Right.
I'm usually the first one in and one of the last ones to leave. I don't mind. My lifestyle works well that way. I built my office 2 stoplights from the house so that I could dedicate a lot of time to the office because I didn't have the 2 hours to commute.
Right.
And I don't mind taking off for a long lunch to work out or go see my kids' program at school or stuff like that.
Right.
I work a half day about every Saturday, and so I don't feel guilty if I need to take off. And I kind of treat my employees the same way. They know what they need to do. We like to hire professionals and treat them that way.
Right. So more on the personal side, what are some hobbies you have?
I'm big time into watching LSU football, which we talked a little bit about earlier. Big football fan, but I'm a cyclist, road cycling. I've done several centuries over the years, and I find that that's a good mind-clearing event for me to get out and sweat, work some cardio and get a good sweat in for 90 minutes or a couple hours on the bike.
Yeah. Now I did go across your LinkedIn the other day, and it did say LSU first and then cycle second. So
priorities.
There you go. Priorities. Now, as the president of BIC Alliance, what motivates you and drives you?
Man, that's a good question. I think really. My employees are a big motivator for me. I love having my hand on the helm of the business, so to speak, and know that I'm setting the direction that provides livelihood for almost 30 families. And then my clients, providing a honest service and delivering or even over-delivering what people expect gives me a real charge.
Right. Yeah.
Our mission statement at BIC Alliance is kind of a flexible one in that it is we connect people in business and industry with one another for the betterment of all. And the idea with the magazine was that we were connecting the readers with the advertisers, of course. It's a people business, so a lot of personal introductions. You can really help your marketing clients out if you know the right people and can introduce them. And then dovetailing the recruiting in there, we're connecting employers and employees. And the investment banking, we're connecting buyers and sellers.
Right.
So we're kind of a business cupid in that regard.
Now, whenever, say like someone wants to come to work for BIC, what kind of person are you looking for? What's the ideal person? Like, this is the guy or girl?
Really, it's about attitude.
That's good.
I think most employers, all things being equal, they're going to hire the person that wants the job the most. So if I can get a sense that somebody really wants to work here, they're hungry for work, and it really my type of work I can provide for them in particular, that gets me excited. I really love hiring people that want to grow, and that's hard to really screen for on the front end, but you know it 90 days into the job.
Right.
You know? My mentor, my father-in-law, Earl Hurd, he taught me a long, long time ago that, you make your living 40 hours a week. You make your career by the investment you put in after that, and when I see that in new hires, you don't want to judge a book on its cover, certainly, but once you get a couple chapters in, you get a good feel for it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. One thing that I learned whenever, I know there's certain things that you can ask, potential employees whenever you do an interview, and there's certain things you can't ask. But what was great information for me was when I was reading a book about Dave Ramsey. He said, you're not just hiring that person, you're hiring the crazy wife or the crazy husband. So if you can take those people out, if you're really thinking that you're going to hire this person, you take them out to dinner and you find out what they're about, because it impacts your business. You have some
no
crazy
question about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I obviously looking for character and ethics. I'm a Christ follower myself, and that's not a screening question we ask. But if I can hire somebody with the right principles, if I have any inkling at all they're not going to run their life the right way, then I can't count on them to run their business the right way.
Right. That's true. That's true. Now, how do you market your business? How do you get your name out there?
Well, by owning a magazine, the magazine itself is our primary marketing tool, and we've got a website. I've got over 30,000 unique visitors a month that visit our website currently, and that's been on a nice little growth curve for the last 18 months or so. You really can't go into a refinery or a chemical plant in the United States and not see our publication.
I've seen them everywhere, and I was in the oil and gas industry for 15 years. I see them everywhere.
So we have a lot of name recognition. That's not to say that we don't need marketing.
Sure.
Coca-Cola gave up a lot of market share when they decided that everybody knew them too.
Right.
So we attend a lot of trade shows. We're active on social media, LinkedIn, really the trade shows and conferences. And I love the person-to-person marketing. I encourage everyone that's involved in any sort of customer service or sales in my organization. We're very active in different industry associations.
Right.
I currently serve on the board of directors of the ACIT, the Association of the Chemical Industry of Texas, as well as the Economic Alliance of the Houston Ship Channel region. And those are just two associations I've been affiliated with a long time, served on committees over the years, and then was asked to join their board of directors.
So getting involved.
Yeah, get involved.
Yeah.
Givers get, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just a
That's
matter
so
of,
true, though.
it's not just a matter of joining the association. That's what really irritates me sometimes.
A name on the list.
People want to pay dues and think that business is going to come their
Right.
ways.
It's not the case.
You want to pay your dues.
That's right.
If you actually give to the organization, get involved and help out, people notice.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard for people to realize that you, in order to get, you have to give, man.
Indeed.
It takes a lot of effort.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
That's awesome. That's awesome information. All right, so Thomas, who is your ideal client?
My clients are manufacturers and service companies that want to reach the decision makers in those heavy process industries. My bread and butter are folks that are wanting to reach the refinery and petrochemical space, but I'm also hitting a lot of readers in our magazine, folks in the pipeline facilities, as well as the E&P side of the business and some power plants.
Gotcha.
So if a company is more narrowly focused to one niche of industry, maybe they're not as good a fit for me. But like a welding company, for instance,
there you go.
They don't care if they're welders or working on a pipeline or
Right.
working on an offshore rig or in
Right.
a power plant or in a refinery. That's an ideal client for
Right.
me, somebody in that process industry that wants to reach the management in the facilities and at the headquarters.
Gotcha. Okay, so now let's go back a few years, back when you were born. Where are you from originally?
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
My father was in the military when I was younger, though, so we kind of, military brat, moved around several times, before I was 7 years old or so.
Our first interview, he was the military brat. We have a lot of military brats, it seems like. Yeah.
Well, it cut off at a certain point when Vietnam ended.
Okay.
My father, fortunately, didn't have to do any fighting. He wasn't deployed before then. He was doing some training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And he took a little bit of savings he had and he bought 80 acres of land right there. He was a Yankee from Connecticut,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
and he had met my mother in New Orleans when he was going to college, but the college thing, he didn't finish that and ended up in the military during the war. And it was a Green Acres kind of thing.
Oh, really?
You know, where he
that's
had
funny.
no idea what he was doing and relied on the kindness of the neighbors around us to get it going.
Awesome.
You know, so my formative years, even though I wasn't there a lot of my life, my formative years were really spent growing up on a farm.
Wow.
We had cattle and wheat, and my mother bought like 2 or 5 of every farm animal you could name.
Oh, wow.
You know?
That's pretty
And
funny.
it was a brilliant environment for 3 young kids to grow up and doing a lot of chores.
Now, would you consider yourself middle class, upper class, or no class when you were younger?
You know, I never felt it, but we were definitely lower middle class. When I was going to go to the public schools, my parents, I remember this real well, my parents asked me about going on food stamps.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were eligible for them, but they recognized the stigma it may have for me if I went for free lunch.
Right.
And I told my parents that I'd prefer not to take the free lunch, and they honored that request.
Wow.
You know, which I always really, and as an adult now, you know, I respect the heck out of that. You know, for them to even give me that input,
I know,
was huge.
That's awesome. Now, where did you spend most of your childhood? Because you said you didn't spend a lot of time there, but where did you spend most of your childhood?
Well, I'd spent about 4 years in that farm area, and our house burned down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the farmhouse burned down, and we didn't have insurance. It was a real tragedy for our family, as you can imagine. You know, I was wearing clothes that didn't fit me because they were gifts. You know, that was an embarrassing moment in my life.
I've been there. Our house did the same. We did the same thing.
And so I got a real heart for helping folks that have been in that predicament, as I'm sure you do too, Jeff.
Right.
One of my dad's acquaintances from college had done well, and he had 2 homes in Louisiana, one in New Orleans, and one was his summer home in on the North Shore in Covington, Louisiana. And we came down to live in his extra home.
Wow.
And that was my first experience being in the South.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome. Now, you said you attended college. Which one was it?
I went to USL, now ULL, in Lafayette, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. I went to college on a mathematics scholarship, you know, and ended up not really liking math, but I knew I was good at it.
Okay.
And so I thought I'd go into accounting.
Yeah.
Transferred to accounting, boring as anything for me.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to poke my eyes out.
Right.
And then it came like, well, how do I get out of here as fast as I can?
Yeah.
General business seemed a great way to go.
There you go.
I got my degree right during the oil bust of 1986, 87, and you know, worked at the mall selling shoes for a while. There were no jobs available. You know, I always envisioned myself, you know, working in a big office somewhere. You know,
we all do, right?
Right, exactly. You know, I'm a major in business and Wall Street and all that.
You're gonna take over the world.
Indeed, indeed. So, my pop, who was always a hard worker. I mean, one of the hardest working guys I know. He actually scored a perfect score on his SAT in math, and ended up not finishing his degree. You know, he grew up. When I was growing up, he was painting houses after he was a farmer. And I worked summers and after school as a foreman for him, you know, helping him paint, you know, residential houses.
Wow.
And he always told me, he could be negative sometimes, and he said, you know, whatever you do in life, Thomas, it's going to suck after about 20 years, your job. So you might as well make some money. I want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. And remembering that advice, I decided I'd go to law school. And I don't say that I concur with his advice anymore, because I've learned to have a lot of joy in what I do, you know, and wish he would have found that while he was still working. But the whole thing was, well, you know, I didn't see raising a family working at the mall, you know, till 11 o'clock at night. And so I went back to school, went to law school, and Exxon hired me off campus, and the circuitous route brought me over to BIC Alliance.
Awesome.
You know?
Well, real quick, let's just take a break. We're going to go to our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back to Building Your Empire. We have in studio Thomas Brinsko. Now, Thomas, tell me, what was your first job out of law school?
I interviewed on campus with Exxon Exploration, and I had a couple of different job offers, but the one from Exxon seemed the sexiest to me, and it did. I had an offer to go work in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which I hadn't been there before, and it's a very heavy industrial city for those of you who don't know it. But and when I was a kid growing up, our definition of a city was New Orleans, Louisiana, and I had never been to Houston before. And the first time I drove to Houston and saw the skyscrapers, my then new wife, it was fantastic. You know, we ate dinner in I can't remember which building it is. It has the spinning restaurant at the top of it downtown. And
I don't know that.
I was just I was mesmerized. You know, it's like I want to work here.
Awesome. Now, what are some of the past experiences as growing up? What did it teach you about success in business?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier my dad works really hard, you know, and he always had chores for us to do, and I was never too concerned about being able to work as hard as the guy standing next to me. I also felt unconditionally loved by my mom and dad, and that gave me a lot of confidence. They always told me I could do whatever I wanted to do, even though you know, neither one of them. My mother actually graduated college around the same time I did and became a teacher. You know,
really?
When I grew up, she was a cocktail waitress, you know, or a stay-at-home mom. And then starting my career at Exxon, my father had never really worked for a corporation before, but my father-in-law had, and so I asked him for advice, you know, about how I should try to start my young career over there at Exxon, and he gave me a couple of pearls that I've really hung on to, and I try to pass them on a lot now. One was, he said, was don't wait for this to happen, initiate it, but find yourself a mentor, or maybe more than one, and be willing to carry this person's water. You know, do all the hard work that they don't want to do. Because when they move up the ladder, they'll probably take you with them. You know, and not long, I think I went through about 4 or 5 reorganizations at Exxon the first 4 or 5 years I was there. You know, they were constantly cutting 10 or 15% off the group, and I think I was only there 7 or 8 months when they had their first layoff. And I went to my boss, and it's like, why in the world did y'all hire me? You're cutting people. He said, don't worry, Thomas, you know, you're safe.
You got it.
You know, you let us worry about those kind of things. But after the layoff, they had combined 2 guys' territories. And then one was in South Louisiana. I think another one was kind of Mississippi, Alabama. And one of my coworkers, Dan Kuntz, had taken on this new combined territory and kind of been made kind of a supervisor of some other folks. And I was like, well, they're cutting people, and Dan looks like he's moving up. I want to carry Dan's water. You know? I went to his office and closed the door and said, I'm new to this biz. You know, they're cutting people. I better learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. Will you teach me, please? And you know, we had a very serious discussion, and just said, you know, I'm here for the long haul. I'm a young person. I'm smart. I'm willing to work hard. Give me a chance. And
so you wasn't scared to ask the question.
I wasn't scared to ask a question, and I think actually even having mentors, more than one, for different people who can teach you different things is really important. And the other thing my father-in-law told me was to get involved with the industry associations, and don't just be a member, but you know, get involved. And I did so. My second job out of school was a headhunter called me because he had gotten a referral from another guy in my industry who said, there's a young kid at Exxon. You need to talk to him. He's on our industry committee with me and real involved, blah, blah, blah. So
making those connections, man.
Making those connections.
It's important. Networking, absolutely. Now, what is one of your biggest struggles in life? Just like, not necessarily business, but in life in general.
Time management. Time management. That's the one resource that you can't buy more of. You know, I struggle with time management at work. You know, running 3 companies, 175 customers, X number of prospects, employees. and then church, work. You know, I serve on different committees at church. My wife and I are marriage mentors, and
Oh, wow,
we're
okay.
constantly working with some different engaged couple at our
Right,
church, talking
right.
about what it looks like to be married.
Hopefully that's good news.
Yeah, it's great news. It's great news. Great news. And
Right.
you know, having 3 kids. I've got 2 in college now, and it's just amazing how fast it
Are
rolls.
you an empty nester?
No, I'm not an empty
Almost.
nester. I've got a 8th grade son, and
So you got a ways.
so yeah, you know, but you
Whoa.
realize how a ways it happens so darn fast.
That's
you know?
true. As you get older too.
That's the scary thing for me. Sending my 2 kids to school, you know, a few weeks ago, they
Yeah.
both go. Sadly, not to LSU,
Yeah.
but in-state tuition was the big draw to University of Texas.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
But,
well that's okay.
It's still a great school.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
But seeing this 8th grader now being the only kid in the house, I know how limited that time is with him.
That's true.
And I've been real intentional about trying to spend time with him in the evenings.
Yeah, that's
you know.
important. Now, what is your greatest achievement? Well, actually, I'm going to wait on that question because I want to kind of get down. I want you to be totally honest with me. Are there ever times where you just go, man, I don't know what I'm doing? I mean, maybe not now, but when you were growing up, when you were taking over a position or whatever, am I the right person for the job? Have you ever had doubt in your mind where, holy crap, man, dude, what am I doing here?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, there was a time maybe when I left my career at Exxon and gone to work at BIC. You know, what have I
new.
done? You know, it was a hyperbolic change for
Yeah.
me. You know, and I'd always worked in a very organized, structured thing, and now, you know, my father-in-law's business. He had been through bankruptcy once before, and the company was not nearly as strong as it is now, of course. I'd asked advice of a lot of people before leaving Exxon, that career, to go work for BIC, and a lot of it was people counseling me not to do it. You know, and the idea of working for your father-in-law was really fraught with a lot of potential pitfalls.
Sure.
But I'd never been afraid of being out of work. You know, my wife even was like, I don't think we ought to do this. And there was just something that was really drawing me to it. I had left Exxon and went to go work for this company, Key Production. Key is now Cimarex and traded on the New York Exchange. But I'd gone from this huge company now to a company that was, I think they were market capitalized for $150 million or something like that.
Chump change
compared to Exxon.
Exxon.
You know,
Yeah.
huge compared to BIC Alliance.
Right.
and probably that little step in between the two was the one.
Right.
But my job at Key, you know, I did some great things at Exxon when I was there.
Yeah.
The greatest things I did in my career, though, didn't merit a footnote in the company annual report.
Right. Oh,
You know?
yeah, I got it.
And
Overall.
so at Key, you know, our company had $80 million spend budget to drill wells, and my division had 40 of that 80.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it was a Denver-based company. They'd opened up a New Orleans office and hired me out of Exxon with a geologist out of Exxon, and you know, so the decisions we made to spend half of the company's money that year,
It's on you.
really, it was on
Yeah,
us. You
yeah.
know, and our bosses let us know it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. By the way.
There's a lot of visits back and forth to Denver, which was kind of cool. Get to see another part of the country
There
I've
you go.
never been to
Travel.
before.
Yeah.
And
Always love travel.
but that feeling of having your hand on the helm,
Yeah.
and the decisions were made so much faster
Yeah.
at Key than at Exxon. That was one thing that
Well,
really
of
frustrated
course.
me about, you know, getting the elephant to
Corporation.
dance, as we
Yeah.
used to say at
Yeah.
Exxon.
Yeah.
You know, those soft things that excited me about Key, I knew if I went to BIC, I'd really have my
You
hand
would
on the
shut-
helm,
yeah.
and the decisions would be made really fast.
Right.
And even though it was something completely different, I told my wife, look, if it doesn't work out, I said, give me 3 years. If it's not working in 2 years, we'll get a 1-year exit strategy.
Right. And how long
You
ago
know?
was that when you said that?
That was 18 years ago.
There you go.
18
Okay.
years ago.
So was that a good move for you?
In the long run, it's worked out to be a good move.
Okay,
Yeah,
good deal. Okay.
Absolutely.
So whenever you find yourself down,
Uh-huh.
when you're like, man, I don't know what's going on. How do you get yourself out of it?
You know, I'm blessed now not to find myself down a whole lot. I'm thinking I'm racking my brain. Early in, when I was made the switch and was having some trouble, I have a uncle who's more like a cousin in age to me. His name is Dane, and he had given me some advice. I had confessed to him that I was down, you know, and it was tough to take it to anybody because I got my wife and my
Right,
father-in-law and this
right.
and that. So I had confessed to him. He's a believer also, and it's like, man, I'm just struggling. I'm not sure if I'm in the right place or if this is really for me. And he encouraged me. He said, "There's got to be something about your job that makes you happy right now. You know, what is it? You know, one facet of your job that you enjoy." And you know, I could rattle off a couple facets of the job that I like. And he said, "Well, focus on that." You know. And he's a social worker. I don't know if he got trained to ask that question or not, but it resonated with me. You know, and
Yeah.
I was able to say, well, it's not all bad, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the attitude. It's not all bad, and we can make the other part better.
Yeah.
We can make. I was in charge, you know.
Yeah.
It's
You
up
make
to-
make
up to
lemon
me.
lemonade
Yeah.
out of lemons.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. What is your biggest inspiration?
You know,
Where do you draw from?
man, I don't. I hate to sound religious, but
You
it
say-
is.
hey, that's your
It
deal.
is,
You do
you
it.
know.
I'm
Yeah,
not going
I-
to censure you, Thomas.
I know what Jesus Christ has done for me, you know, and if things are bad in this world is not my home,
Okay, got
you
it.
know.
This ain't the end result.
This is not the
Okay.
end story.
Yeah, I
you know,
gotcha.
all things are small and compared to eternity.
Yeah.
You know, and I know how the story ends as a
Right.
man of faith. You know,
Right.
so there's a big time happy ending
Right.
to all this.
Yeah. So
And,
it's not all bad.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
Right.
Okay. What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, I am reading a book right now called The Imitation of Christ. It was written in the 14th century by a man named Thomas à Kempis, and it's a pretty cool book. I recently read a book called The Generosity Factor. I think is the most recent book that I've completed. It's a story about giving. You know, we mentioned earlier, givers get. So
It's true.
I've been intentionally looking at generosity over the last 2 years, and you know, it's really impacted my life. Again, Jesus being the first giver, you know, the original giver, God giving His Son. If we're to be called to be Christ-like, I want to be a giver too.
Right. And this is one thing that really aggravates me about the media. You know, they talk about rich people bad. You know, it's bad to be rich. But I've known some people that are very wealthy that are huge givers. And that's where I want to be. I want to be super successful, so rich that I can give a lot of my money away.
Hey, if there's anybody out there that'd be interested in this, the book I've just picked up to start reading, and I do read one or two at the same time, is called God and Money. And it was written by 2 Harvard MBAs, 2 men who set out to be very, very wealthy. And they, as part of their thesis that they had to write to get their MBA, they took a look at what God had to say about money. It was such an impressive thesis that another group picked it up and asked them to make a book out of it.
Awesome.
But
That'd
yeah,
be
you're
great.
right. There's a lot of wealthy people out there who really have giving in their heart.
Right.
And thank goodness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what advice would you give someone about running a business? What was some, like a couple quick nuggets on running a successful business?
Well, probably the first thing is a good name is worth more than any profit you're going to get.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's integrity.
Yeah.
You know, doing things right.
Yeah.
Treating the people you want to be the way you want to be treated.
Right.
I can't tell you how much business I have today that comes from relationships that existed a long time ago. Probably another thing that's related to it. You know, when I met people in industry, when I first joined the industry a long time ago, maybe I didn't do as good a job keeping up with them.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd run across a name later on, and you just can't remember what you did 4 years ago with this person or these notes. So keeping a active CRM, you know, customer
Right.
relationship management, I think was something that I learned the hard way, you know.
Because you didn't do it?
Because I didn't do it. It's like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I know
That's
I had
something I've got to
something
get
this-
better at too.
You know, information is knowledge, and
Yeah.
we're living in this digital information
Yeah.
age. It's easy to keep up with it now.
Yeah.
It took me a while to really learn that this information is power and knowledge,
True.
and if you can hold on to it, you can tap into it later on.
Well, that's like with people whenever you call them out by name, from years.
Sure.
It's big. It makes them feel important. you know?
Sure.
So it's a
And
big deal.
like me, I've got a bad memory, right?
I don't see how. I mean,
Kill-
I have a bad memory. I can't remember. I really focus on remembering people's names because it's a struggle. Because I know how important that is to people. You know?
I want to remember. I know when I was younger, I used to always fret about when I forgot somebody's name in a social environment or this
Right.
environment. I'd try to pretend like I didn't forget and pick it up.
What do you do?
Now I just come right out and say, "Hey, I'm Thomas, and I should know your name."
Yeah,
but
I know you.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that I don't remember your name, Jeff, I always tell people it's on me. It's not on you.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
You don't have to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
I could be embarrassed, but I'm choosing not to be.
Right.
I want to.
I want to know it, yeah.
I wanna
And that's
know.
what I take. Sometimes I do the hey guy, and I wait for that name to be announced somewhere, and then I
Yeah.
go back and say, John, hey, let me ask you this. But that's one thing that I've learned is that remembering those names, it's huge. It's huge remembering people's name, and I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll say, hey, you know
If
what?
you can't remember the name, the genuineness, I think, is the next thing that
Yeah,
helps you. You know, it's
yeah.
like, look, I
The
forgot.
intent.
You know, what can I do? And I think not being that double-minded.
Yeah. Not letting it bother you.
Yeah.
Just ask the question. Now, what's in it? What's in the next 5, 10, 20 years for you?
I think right now our consulting businesses, the recruiting side and the investment banking piece, they've really got some growth to go on their corporate curve. I can really see growing those businesses, even doubling or tripling them over the next few years.
Oh, wow.
On the marketing side, obviously the digital piece is growing more and more. We're providing webinars and native advertising now, and doing e-newsletters, things that we didn't do 2 years ago, and so it's a big part of our growth plan.
Right. Now, what is your next big personal adventure? You have one.
Well, my wife had a bucket list item
Oh.
for maybe a dozen years or so, and we just recently booked a trip to raft the Grand Canyon. this
What?
summer. Yeah.
Come on,
and
man.
Got all the kids scheduled to come with
Oh,
us.
really?
It's
Well,
a
that'd be
motorized
fun.
raft, though. I didn't even know they had such a thing. So
There you go.
the Grand Canyon is so long that most people only do half of it, but if you raft, you can travel twice as fast and do the whole Grand Canyon.
There you go.
So
Technology, man.
yeah, exactly.
Now, if there were no limits, money was not an object, reality wasn't an object, what would you do?
Easy question for me.
I think I know where that would go. Go ahead.
I'd go to seminary, and then I would open a florist,
Oh, like a flower shop?
like a flower shop.
Really? Where'd that
Yes.
come from?
Well, I just love flowers, first
Really?
of all.
Awesome.
And I love ministering to people, but
Okay.
I don't see myself with my own church.
Yeah.
But I like the
You're a
idea.
traveler.
I am a traveler. I'd like to have some employees at the flower shop that can run when I'm not there. But I could see myself being an old man sitting behind the counter,
Yeah.
talking to people who are coming in to buy flowers for their wives and helping them out
Yeah.
with their counseling them.
From
you
oil
know.
and gas industry
Man,
to florist.
you know, the oil and gas business is such a national business, even international
Yeah, yeah.
business. I like that chamber of commerce type business where,
Sure.
you know, I could see people for their weddings and funerals and really
Right.
get to speak into their
Okay,
lives.
gotcha.
Tell them how God loves them, you know?
That was a shocker. I was thinking that you say I would go to heaven or something, but I mean, that's pretty awesome. That was definitely occurred for me.
Wham!
Yeah. If you could have any power, what would that power be?
Omniscience.
What?
Omniscience.
What is that?
All knowing.
Oh, all knowing. Okay, there you go. See, that's maybe something I need to get. If you could have any question answered, any question whatsoever, what would that question be?
How can free will and preordained things happen at the same time?
Man, you're getting deep on me over here, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a deep guy,
I
man.
know, right? Right. All right, Thomas. Last question. If you were stranded on a desert island, and you could only have two things, what would they be?
I think my wife and Scripture would probably be my go-to.
Got it.
Hard
Got
to
it.
live without them.
I know, right? Well, Thomas, I want to thank you for coming out and sharing your time and your wisdom. I'm sure that the information you gave will help those people that are looking to run a business, to start a business, and to be successful in life.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your time.
All right. And we are out. Thank you so much, guys. And tune in next time for our next interviewee.